question to ask. People want government to run in a more business-like manner.
Run it more like a business.
You got to run it as a business.
Is running a country like running a business?
But let him run the country like you run a business.
The government should start running like a small business. Brian Hamilton is
You don't hear it too often these days, but part of the popular vernacular a few years ago was to encourage running the government like a business. So if you can excuse me for hearkening back to a debate no longer in vogue, and I promise not to take a side on it, can we talk about what this might look like in Fort Smith? Most working adult Americans already work for businesses and live in cities, so we sort of intuitively recognize how these two concepts intermingle quite readily. I'll briefly go over some of the similarities between businesses and cities, but the focus of this video will be about if we think our local government ought to run more like a business, why Wal-Mart is so prosperous and almost every American city like Fort Smith is not. Both businesses and cities have executives that everyone in the organization must follow. But as the saying goes, the people have the power, either through the power of their dollar or through their constitutional right to vote. So businesses and cities both know that listening to citizens or customers is their path to success. This is one reason why some people say that democracy and capitalism are so compatible. Number 2, profitability. In businesses and cities alike, there are cost centers and profit centers. A profit center is anything that directly produces revenue. That might look like the sales department for a business or a tax collector for a city. And cost centers don't directly produce revenue. This might be your human resources department or maintenance department. In general, businesses and cities would love to be able to expand their profit centers and shrink their cost centers. Number 3, productivity. Did you know that every business produces something? Whether it be a product or a service, producing something of value is the key driver of success. What might look like empty fields is producing crops to nourish our population. Both businesses and cities work to minimize unproductive sectors of their organizations because anything that is not producing something is hurting productivity. If a farm has an empty field, it costs more money to leave it empty. If a business has a blighted parcel, it costs money to leave it blighted. That's about where I'd like to end the similarities. Let's talk about what businesses do that cities do not. I picked Wal-Mart as an example for this video because it's so close to home for us. We truly are shopping local when we visit them, and also because I think their stores are a great example of how we should model our cities. A big box store like Wal-Mart in a city both sell you their brand before you ever enter them, and they do this in the form of signage. They also try to keep their entrances warm and inviting. They might have staff who exist at the front to make sure people feel welcome. At Wal-Mart, this might look like a greeter, and in Fort Smith, it might be our downtown ambassadors or police. And once you get inside, the interior of a Wal-Mart is laid out just like a traditionally developed city. The first thing you see upon entry is deliberately placed there to attract your attention. In the case of Wal-Mart, it might be a selection of items that have the highest markup, and in Fort Smith, we might say it's Immaculate Conception Church. Whatever they want to get your attention with. From there are streets taking customers to products in a grid-like pattern. Okay, here's my attempt at a map of a fairly typical Walmart. The dark blue color is the general shape of the store and where people are allowed to walk, and the lighter brown colors are aisles. I also color-coded the aisles a bit. The lighter yellow kind of colored ones are not true aisles, okay? They're either half height or they're things like clothing racks that people can see through. So the first thing you might notice is that there are arterial thoroughfares in Walmart just like there are major roads in a city. These are Walmart's way of getting shoppers from A to B as quickly as possible. There are end caps at the end of each aisle to ensure that all space is being put to use, but the products placed here are chosen very carefully. Products are large enough to attract attention from a distance, but not too large to load into carts quickly. And most importantly, the products on the end caps are some of the most profitable in the store. Walmart would be foolish to put loss leaders like milk, bread, or rotisserie chicken on these end caps because almost everyone in the store walks down these aisles, and also everyone is going to buy these loss leader products anyway. So they put the bread and the milk tucked away in the back in the most inconvenient place possible so that they can dedicate the most important space to the items that generate the most profit. Branching off from our major arterial roads are these aisles. In our analogy of how Walmart is like a city, aisles function in the same way as streets. What I mean is, they can technically be used to cross long distances across the store, but you might attract traffic jams caused by other shoppers, and that's because the intended purpose of the aisle is for you to travel at a slow speed and linger reviewing products. In our analogy, the products on the shelves are like the homes and businesses in Fort Smith. Finally, we have these avenues. They have the same high-speed capacity as our arterial roads, but they're also different because they have products on them, causing people to slow down and shop. This can make them dangerous for traffic congestion because they're combining two different types of traffic. We might call a road that combines different traffic types like this a strode, and combining different traffic types is actually what causes congestion. We can add new aisles and new products on the shelves at Walmart, and it will increase traffic congestion a little bit, but not as much as just inefficiently managing our roadways. So Walmart has strategies to prevent congestion in these avenues. First, they're broken up by or near these lighter yellow blocks, which are speed control devices, and they restrict access to the avenue. In a city, the closest analogy to these would be trees. In the case of this very middle aisle without any traffic mitigation, the products here are the least trafficked in the store. The types of things you might buy only a few times a year, like greeting cards, spatulas, towels, clothes hangers. In a city, the equivalent might be the local landfill, water treatment plant, anywhere that the average citizen doesn't frequently travel. The other thing you'll notice is that the primary avenues are mostly around the periphery of the store where there's less traffic anyway. Let's redesign Walmart to look more like the modern American city. The most valuable land in the city is on this high-traffic thoroughfare. Businesses are begging for access to some of this traffic, so let's put this arterial to better use. And rather than placing the most profitable things on this roadway as a necessary evil, we'll let anyone who wants a business to put it here, and we'll do it in the name of growth. Now, this might sound like the free market working, but here's where it stops being a free market. These new businesses have changed the fabric of the arterial enough that we need to spend government dollars to subsidize private businesses to bring their customers to them. The road, which was originally a flow road, has become a strode, combining thoroughfare traffic with destination traffic, and we have become congested. In an effort to fight congestion, most cities' first action to fix traffic is to widen the roadway. There go our trees. Great. Now that we have a wide road, congestion is better. For now. But there was a certain population of people who were using this aisle over here to get from north to south just because it was closer to them. But now that we've lowered the cost of driving on the arterial to be lower than this aisle over here, their traffic is now diverted down the arterial. This is only one of many ways of how adding destinations to a flow road can also increase congestion. You can look up plenty of videos about induced demand to see why this is. It's not a topic for this video, but it is an observed phenomenon that widening roads either maintains or exacerbates current congestion levels or increases the amount of distance that people drive in your city. At this point, we've widened the road and now it's just as congested as it ever was. And if we cannot widen it anymore for whatever reason, the next thing cities do is implement new traffic fighting techniques. First, we might add right turn only lanes to separate people moving forward from those turning right. Next, we need new parking for all of these new businesses so people can always find a parking spot right next to the store no matter what. In fact, we'll make it illegal not to have more parking than we ever need. Okay, let's repeat this for all of our major arterials just like a city would. Now that we have all of these businesses, you may have noticed that we've been displacing homes and businesses to widen our roadways. These people haven't gone away, they still live in Fort Smith and they need somewhere to live. So we need to expand our city limits to fit them in somewhere. This is sprawl. To many people, sprawl feels intrinsically bad, but if I can point out why, it's because it's intrinsically wasteful. In this model, we have not added any additional population to our city, we've simply replaced existing businesses and moved people around a bit. So our tax base has not changed. But now that we have had to expand, all of this new space comes at the expense of additional infrastructure, which we originally paid for with funds generated by our traditionally developed city. New electric lines, new sewers, new roads. But now that our city follows a new model, there's no new tax base to pay for this additional infrastructure cost when it comes time to replace it. And it's not just infrastructure that gets more expensive. Police and fire have to drive further away to respond to calls. New water towers have to be erected. Sidewalks are paved. And as these costs go up, potholes start appearing. Water leaks go unrepaired. Stray animals go unrescued. And most important, land use patterns promote development on the city's periphery, exacerbating the sprawl even more. The businesses in the oldest part of our town decide to leave. And why wouldn't they, when we force them to subsidize their own competition? This is the current state of Fort Smith. Our city got this way half a century ago or more, and now that it's time to repair or replace some of this aging infrastructure, we don't have the tax revenue to pay for it. We can grow our way out by constantly expanding the city forever, seek bailout money, find creative new ways to tax our population, but these are all short-term solutions that do not address the long-term issue. Oh, and did I mention that since these people we've moved to the periphery of the city are so far away from the central business district, they now have to drive when they could walk before? This makes the congestion even worse, and the cycle repeats until either the city runs out of money or the end of the world, whichever comes first. We need only look back to Wal-Mart once again to see how we can fix a problem like this in Fort Smith. Wal-Mart's new campus, which is even more like a city than one of their stores, is laid out with efficiency of space kept in mind. There are options for cars, walking, and cycling alike. There are parks. There is irrigation and drainage. Wal-Mart made the decision to build this way because it is profitable. They are, after all, a company and not a charity. But what will this look like in Fort Smith? First, no new roads and no new road widening projects. If you add roadway capacity to shorten commute times within your city by 3 minutes, it eventually adds 3 minutes worth of additional sprawl and infrastructure cost on the periphery of the city without increasing your tax base. Second, if we do need new roadways as a result of growth, build them under the principles of separating traffic types. People using a road as a thoroughfare should not intermingle traffic with people using a street to get to homes or businesses. And when a business inevitably asks for a zoning variance to build along your flow road, say no. Third, grow organically and sustainably. Organically means not to use long-term government benefits to force something to be built here that couldn't exist naturally. Government incentives should be used as a way of competing with other cities and attracting new businesses. But if that incentive means funding business in perpetuity in order for it to stay alive, it stops being a business and is more of an extended branch of our government. And in fact, I think Wal-Mart is starting to reach that point. When it comes to the necessary but unprofitable part of getting people to their new campus, Wal-Mart asked the government to foot the bill. And in perpetuity, our tax dollars will now socialize the part of Wal-Mart's campus that they don't show on the map, which is the publicly funded Highway 102. Granted, I'm sure Wal-Mart provides more positive economic impact than it asks in return. But has anyone done the math? Or asked for Wal-Mart to do the math? Is that something we should be doing? Would Fort Smith be worse off, or better off, or the same if our Wal-Marts were Piggly Wigglies or Kroger's without any public infrastructure funding? And Wal-Mart is just an example. We subsidize a lot of other businesses in Fort Smith this way. So let's get back to the 3 P's from the beginning of the video. Are we running Fort Smith like a business? Power. Power in our cities is theoretically held by the people, but the people making these zoning decisions are an unelected planning commission. Profitability. Rather than asking developers to model the long-term impact they impose on our city, we green stamp every new development and provide government infrastructure subsidies with blank checks for private businesses. Productivity. When businesses move out, rather than make them repay for their infrastructure that we built for them, the city pays for that infrastructure forever. Businesses will inevitably go away, but the roads we build for them are forever, right alongside the vacant parcels they left behind. I think we'll leave it there. This video came from an article in Discourse magazine. Definitely check it out if you'd like to read more.